Hello and welcome to another Stampin' Amy K Facebook Live. And today I'm going to do something a little bit different. Instead of just showing you one card, I thought I'd show you 3 cards made with the Vine Design Stamp Set Bundle. So I'm kind of going, there's a simpler one and then kind of a medium one and then a little bit more, I don't want to say challenging because it really wasn't challenging, but a little more stepped up, I guess we'll say, version that's got quite a bit of die cutting and fun little things to go with it. So hey Bree, thanks for hopping on today. Glad you're here. And Akiko as well, and Lori. So thanks for joining today. I appreciate y'all being here. So like I said, we're just going to play with the Vine Design Stamp Set Bundle a little bit. And I'm going to show you 3 different cards. I tried to do some of the stuff ahead of time just because I didn't want you to have to feel like you had to spend all afternoon here with me. But anyway, so we're going to do 3 cards. So let's talk a little bit about the stamp set. So this is the Vine Design Stamp Set. Hey, Barbara and Jeannie and Diane, glad you all are here. So thanks for joining. So this is the stamp set, and it's one of those in the catalog that maybe, you know, it might not be on the top of your list, but it should be up there because it's a good one. It's got some good sentiments in it, a good die set that coordinates with it that I'll show you in one second. There's the little border stamped image that fits around 3 of the 6 sentiments. And actually this one would probably fit in there as well, but might look a little odd because it's so long. But hey, Marilyn and Mary and Tammy, thanks for joining today. Glad y'all are here. So this is the stamp set, but like I said, it's good because it's kind of got general, sort of everyday stamps, which is nice. And then it's got a really awesome die set that coordinates with it. These are the Flowering Vines dies, I believe is the name of this one. So there are these larger dies that can be used as backgrounds, which I used on this card, and I'll show you in a second how I did that. And then here's the one that cuts out the sentiment, and then there are the ones that cut out the little flowers. So they cut out the stamped images here, and as well as if you just want to, again on this card, just cut kind of the blanks with these die cuts. So anyway, so that's the stamp set and dies. So I'm going to set those aside, and hopefully I have everything that I need on the blocks because, like I said, it's, you know, trying to get set up for 3 different cards. I sort of, you know, of course, you know me, you have to use up 50 million dies and all that sort of thing. So, all right. Other set of dies that I used on this one is the stitched rectangles dies. And I use that for the middle card and kind of the stepped up or the more detailed card. I used the same die set, and it's the second to the largest of the big rectangles that I used to cut out the basic white panel here. And then I used this die, which is the second from the largest of the kind of narrow rectangles, and that's what I cut the panel of designer paper for the background of this card with. So that is the other die set that I used. So I'm going to scoot these aside and we will get started in just a second stamping. But wanted to remind you a couple things. Stampin' Up! Has a great, awesome deal going on right now. Hopefully I'm still live. Okay, I was just going to say all of a sudden my computer went away and I wanted to make sure I was still live and good out here. So hey, Doreen and Catherine and Jillian, glad you all are here as well. Hopefully I haven't missed anyone else. So Stampin' Up! Has an awesome starter kit deal going on right now. During celebration, if you join, you get 5 free packs of 6x6 Designer Series paper, and it's the color families, the subtles, brights, regals, neutrals, and 2020 to 2022 in colors. So 5 packs, $57.50 value. You get that for free in addition to your regular starter kit. So starter kit's an awesome deal all by itself because you pay $99 and you get to pick $125 worth of whatever it is that you want for Stampin' Up! Merchandise. And then on top of that, during celebration, if you order before if you join before the end of February, you get the 5 free packs of paper. It's like 200 sheets of 6x6 designer paper. So it's an awesome deal. So, all right, let me set that aside. And then we've got the Hey Chick and Hey Birthday Chick bundles that are coming next week, Tuesday. So don't forget about those. Some great bundles. If you already have the Hey Chick stamp set from a couple years ago celebration, when that was one of the free items, they now have dies that go with it. If you do not have it, you can buy the dies and the stamp set together in a bundle. Otherwise, you can just buy them individually as well. And then we have the Hey Birthday Chick bundle, which the Hey Birthday Chick stamp set is in the current mini catalog, but they are bringing out dies that go with it. And again, you can buy them individually or as a bundle starting on February 2nd. So let me know if you have questions about that. I do have it posted out on the sidebar of my blog, which is stampwithamyk.com. So if you need any more details, you can go out there and click on that and see that flyer that I just showed you a second ago. Last thing, Basic White is replaced or has replaced Whisper White for Stampin' Up! Products, paper products. So just wanted you to be aware of that. We're going to be using basic white today and playing with that, so you'll get to see that as well. All right, so all right, let's get started stamping. So first things first, the very first card that I did is this little note card, and it's super, super simple, and hopefully I won't mess anything up on it, but I started with a basic white note cards and envelopes, one of the note cards from it, and I've got Pear Pizzazz ink, and I'm going to ink up the, hey Kay, thanks for hopping in today, and Mary Elizabeth as well. So, I'm going to ink up the vine image, or the leafy image from the Vine Design stamp set. And we're using Pear Pizzazz ink, and I'm going to just stamp it over the edge of my little card front here. And again, no rhyme or reason as to the way that I stamped it. It doesn't have to be, you know, exactly placed in some perfect spot. Just get it stamped on there. And then close that up before I stick my fingers in it. And then I used Calypso Coral to add the larger flower image. And as you see across all three cards that I made, it's the same color palette that I used. So kind of wanted to stick with the same basic supplies and show you how you can make everything from a simple little note card done in about 30 seconds up to something that's a little more detailed with a few die cuts and that sort of things involved in it. So. All right, so we've got Calypso Coral flower stamped on it. And then I've got a hello sentiment here. Again, this is from the Vine Design stamp set. And we're all going to hold our breath and hope that I stamp this straight. Hopefully I will. And if I don't, I think it looks all right. I think I got pretty close to straight. I don't know if it's exactly straight, but that's pretty darn close. So let me close up that one and get out the So Saffron ink. And this is the little kind of 4-petal flower, and we're going to stamp that a couple times on the card front. I think we'll stamp that one right down here. And then close that up, and then add a little rhinestone next to the sentiment, and the card front of this one is going to be all done. So I know y'all are like, oh, she's the most amazing stamper ever. No, not just kidding. So, but I thought it turned out really cute. I thought, you know, just for a quick something you need to have done in just a couple minutes type note card, this one would be perfect. So on the inside of it, I'm just going to show you the insides rather than stamping everything since we're doing 3 of them. Hey, Diana, thanks for joining. And if you're, I don't know if you're hanging out with my sister today, but wave and say hello if you are. So, all right, so this is what the inside of the card looks like. Again, I just did a quick stamping with Pear Pizzazz ink and then Calypso Coral and So Saffron, just stamped a couple random flowers on it, and that's it. So the note card is all done. Once we get that done, going to set that aside, and then we're going to start working on this card, which is a little bit stepped up from it. It's not a terribly difficult card, but just a little different, you know, a few more layers on this one than what I had on the original, or had on my little note card. So I've got a Calypso Coral card base, and this one I have cut to 4 1/4 by 11 and scored at 5 1/2, but this one would work just as well in one of your standard book fold cards, which is the 5 1/2 by 8 1/2 and scored at 4 1/4. You'll see on the original card, I used the sort of wood grain look designer paper. For this one, I thought I'd change it a little bit and just use a different piece of the designer series paper. Oh, you're retired? Aw, I didn't realize that. I guess she didn't tell me that part. I knew you knew each other from work, but so this is, again, just using a little bit of the subtle designer series paper. Again, it's the 6x6 designer paper pack that's in the current catalog. And again, this is just a different paper from the wood grain one. And it's cut to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, so it should cover the entire card front if I can get it stuck on here straight, which that's always, you know, the challenge, putting everything on straight. So I think we've got that on there. Next up, again, I went ahead and had pre-cut this with the second largest stitched rectangle die. And this is basic white cardstock, and we're just going to do a little stamping across the card front with Pear Pizzazz ink to start with. Again, same color palette, so just using Pear Pizzazz to ink up the little leafy dies, the branch dies, or whatever you want to call them. And I stamped it once, and then going to stamp it a second time, and I don't need to be too terribly concerned about exactly how I'm going to stamp it because as you can see on here, I actually used the sentiment to cover up where the two sort of met in the middle, so I didn't have to have it stamped perfectly, you know, and have everything lined up and looking awesome in the middle of it because nobody can see it anyway. So, all right, so a second time on there with Pear Pizzazz. And I didn't get as good of an image on this one, so one thing that I will tell you that you can quickly do is sometimes, I don't know why the flatter images, if I don't press it down correctly because I was talking, sometimes I don't always get an awesome image. So if you've got the Stampin' Right markers, you can basically just come back in and sort of fill in the color anywhere where you've got it, where it didn't stamp perfectly. So that's always a nice little good reason to have your Stampin' Right markers around, is you can kind of fill in your little gaps and fill in any boo-boos like that where things didn't stamp perfectly. So, all right, so that's one little trick that I can tell you with it. Then I came back in with Calypso Coral in that same larger flower that I had stamped earlier. And I stamped a couple of those across the background. So I put one up here. I've got one off to the side over here. And then another one somewhere in this general area. One more down here. And then a couple here towards the bottom. And we'll be done with the Calypso Coral for the Stampin' there. All right, so we've got kind of the background piece done. Next up, I'm going to stamp the sentiment. And it's just the thank you sentiment from the Vine Design stamp set. Feel free to case away, Karen. Like I said, it's a fun little stamp and die set. It's one that initially maybe, like I said, it didn't really, I was like, it's okay. And then I got it and started playing with it, and I'm like, oh, this is a lot of fun. So, all right, so we've got the sentiment stamped here. And then I used the double oval punch, which is a new punch in the mini catalog. And I'm just going to go ahead and, I stamped it up too high. Should have been thinking about it and not talking. So trim off a little bit of that. There we go, that's a better fit. So get it centered in here and punch out my sentiment. Hey Kathy, thanks for joining from South Dakota. So, and Debbie, thanks for, the typeset words are really awesome in this one. So, you got it last week and can't wait to use it. It's a good one, Rosie. You're going to like it. So, all right. So this is actually my background piece of So Saffron cardstock, and I'm going to be putting it behind this panel, the stamped panel. So we're going to sneak in and do a little paper saving trick, which most of you probably already know it. But if you have a punch or a die cut that you need to do, and it doesn't have to be placed anywhere specifically, you can stick it sort of in the middle of a background panel like that, punch it out, and then layer your panel right over the top, and nobody will ever know that it's there. So that's one little sort of paper saving technique that you could do if you get in a spot where you need a little, just a quick little punch like that. It works really well. So, all right, going to use, hopefully, Stamp and Seal here to adhere the two pieces together. And again, that was the double oval punch that I used to punch out the sentiment. And then I'm going to adhere these two pieces together. And I know for foil sheets especially, it's nice to be able to cut the centers out of them and save them, because those darn foil sheets, there are only 2 of them in a pack. So I usually try to cut the centers out of mine before I start layering them all up. Sometimes you can't do it depending on what you're doing on top of it, because it may show or whatever. But for things like this, nobody can tell that it's there. You're going to stick it flat down to the card front, and nobody will ever know the secret but you. All right, so we're going to take a little Stamp and Seal and adhere this to the card front. All right, joining from Edmonton, Canada, Karen, thanks for hopping in. And Jeanne, I see, is here from Oregon as well, so glad y'all have made it today. And we're getting a little snow around here today, which is, I don't know if south of us, I don't know if you are, Karen, but we've got a little snow on the ground out here, so... All right, and as you can see, hopefully I am lining this up on my grid paper and trying to get it so that it's centered and somewhat straight. And I just kind of try to use the lines on the grid paper to help me do that. And the next thing I'm going to do is adhere my sentiment down with a couple Stampin' Dimensionals. So, yeah, the foil sheets, actually all the specialty, well, all the papers in general, but the specialty ones in particular are really pretty in the new catalog, so lots of good things in there. All right, going to pick off the Stampin' Dimensionals. And again, like I said, I just covered up the little gap here where I've got my branches that didn't quite meet up perfectly. Again, one of those little things that only you and I will know that there's a little oops behind it. And so it's all hidden. And I went ahead and did these ahead of time as well, just because, watching me stamp and die cut, 7 little tiny flowers, it would be like watching paint dry. So, so decided that I would go ahead and just do those ahead of time for you. And we're just going to adhere on a couple of flowers here to the card front. So I'm going to stick on the Calypso coral flower onto the sentiment, and then add a couple of the little So Saffron flowers. Again, these are stamped in So Saffron and cut out with the, or stamped with the Vine Design stamp set, cut out with the Flowering Vines dies. And I knew I was going to forget the name of it. It's Flowering Vines dies. And then I'm just adhering them on with some glue dots, just right around, kind of try to stack them up around the other flowers. Try to look like little flower bunches, hopefully. I don't know if I did that, accomplished that or not, but that was my plan. One last one here, and then we'll put some rhinestones on it, and we'll be done with this card. So, all right. And rhinestones. Where's my tweezers? I know I had it out here. I have lost the tweezers already. How did I do that? I'm sure it's here somewhere underneath something. And oh, there it is. I knew I would find it eventually. So I've got some of the little rhinestones, and I'm just taking those and I'm sticking them right in the centers of my stamped flowers here, the So Saffron flowers, to give it a little, where's the DSP from? This is actually from the Subtle 6" by 6" Designer Series paper pack, the one that's in the current catalog. So this is the kind of wood grain look background piece, and then this is just a different pattern from that same pack. So, and again, I stuck with the same designer paper pack across all the cards so that you'd be able to see what they all look like and kind of use the same supplies to be able to do all of them. So, all right, so that's it for the card front on that one. And again, just going to show you the inside of the card quickly rather than stamping it here, since we're doing a couple cards. So this one, I added a little strip of the Designer Series paper. Again, this is Calypso Coral from the Subtles 6" by 6" DSP pack. And I did a little stamping with the vine images and flower images. So just kind of did the same basic thing that I did on the original card, just stamped it and added the Designer Series paper. So that's the inside of the card. Going to set that one aside. Had more snow in the last few days than you have had all winter. Yeah, I don't know. It's been kind of crazy. I know that I've heard that some big storms were coming through. So I don't know. Hopefully this is the worst of it, because we didn't get too much here, thank goodness. So, all right. So for the last card, this one again, I did a bunch of the pieces ahead of time because I know it's as exciting as watching paint dry, watching somebody sit and die cut over and over again. So these actually are the large, this kind of rectangular die here. I cut it twice from basic white cardstock and stuck one to one side, and I'm going to put one on the other side. And then I cut out the Calypso coral flowers with this die, and then the little So Saffron flowers with this die, and they match up perfectly if you can line them up the right way underneath the die cuts, so they kind of peek through the colors on these die cuts. So if this one was not underneath the sentiment, I would be putting them in here as well, so they just fit perfectly and kind of peek through and show a little bit of color. So, oh, it looks like pumpkin pie. Yeah, it depends. The lighting, I know it's hard when you have these bright lights on, the colors do look a little weird, but it's Calypso coral. So, but pumpkin pie would also work. Maybe if you wanted to do a more fall themed card, could maybe switch it over to pumpkin pie, So Saffron, and maybe Old Olive would be good with that one, or pumpkin pie and crushed curry. And it was one of the C ones. All right, so I flipped this over, and I'm on the back side of the die cut, and I've got my little die cut flowers here. I'm just placing them right over the top of the original flowers that are in the die cut. Just with little tiny dots of liquid glue, and then I'm going to flip it over and make sure that nothing is adhered on too crazily, because sometimes they can, like this one, I got a little crooked, so I'm going to try to scooch it just a bit. Hopefully I still can. If it's dried, it's dried. That may be as good as it's going to get. So that's basically how it works, is that, you can use it. You don't have to put the little die cuts behind there, but I just like that they fit perfectly. So I figured I might as well go ahead. So, all right, going to use, when I placed these on here, I did, of course, obviously before I glued everything down, sort of did a placement check on them, and they fit basically almost perfectly side by side on a card front. And again, this is a standard 5.5 by 8.5 scored at 4 1/4 card base. So they fit almost perfectly there on the card front, which is a nice little bonus. So you don't have to worry so much about getting everything lined up exactly and perfectly and whatever, because it kind of lines itself up. So going to do a little bit of gluing here with liquid glue on the back. I don't need to worry quite as much in the center about getting everything glued down, but I want to try to get a few of the leaves here along the edges and make sure that my flowers are glued down so that it stays on the card front. And then I'm going to turn it here on its side and make sure that I line up the leaves in the center and make sure that I'm not overhanging the edge here. So I need to scooch it just a little bit, it looks like. Whoop, that's too much. All right, lining things up, and then I'm going to press it down and hold. So, oh, you didn't think you wanted the bundle? Yeah, it's a good one. I think you need to get it. At least that's my opinion. But then I think you need to get them all. So, and as you'll notice, they are a little bit overlapped here in the center, but I'm going to be covering that up again with my panels here that I've got for the die cuts. So I wasn't terribly worried that there's a little bit of an overlap. If you don't like the way it looks, you can trim things down or do whatever you want to cover it. But I just like that it fit basically almost perfectly on the card front. All right, next up, and sorry, the heat just turned on, so there's going to be a bunch of racket here in the background. Apparently it's cold here today. So next up, I'm going to do a little bit of Stampin' Seal across the card front. And again, that's why I didn't worry too much about sticking everything down, because I knew I was going to be coming back in and adding Stampin' Seal over the top of it. And this is from the Ornate Garden Ribbon Combo Pack. I've got Calypso Coral Ribbon in here. And I'm just going to do sort of a wide Z look to it and adhere the ribbon to the card front. And a little bit more here. And then before I cut anything off or stick it down really, really well, I am going to, hopefully, if I can find my die cut, there it is, place this over the top and make sure that this is where I want it to be as far as the ribbon goes, and that looks pretty good to me. So I'm going to go ahead and trim off the extra ribbon here, hopefully at an angle. All right, so we've got that, and I'm going to kind of smoosh it down here to make sure it's stuck well. And then I've got a piece of, again, from the Subtles 6x6 Designer Series paper that I cut with one of the Stitched Rectangles dies, and it was this one in particular that I used to cut out this piece of designer paper. Going to add a couple Stampin' dimensionals to the back of it. It'll work with the mini die cutting machine. Nice little bonus. So it's snowing in upstate New York like crazy. Okay, yeah, we aren't getting much here. It was sort of sleeting for a little bit, and then it started snowing a little bit, and then it kind of quit, and I don't know, now it's looking kind of dreary outside, and looks like it may snow some more. I know we're supposed to be getting more this afternoon, but we will see. Hopefully not too much more because, yeah, the roads are okay right now, but in not too long, they're going to be not so good. So, all right. I've got my die cut here, and I'm just going to sort of try to look at placement wise and make sure that I've got things lined up as best I can, straight and in the center. And I'm using, again, the die cut pieces here to sort of judge where I should be sticking things down. And got that adhered to the card front. Next up, we're going to do a little bit of stamping on this card. This card really didn't have too terrible much stamping on it. It was mostly doing a lot of die cutting work with it. I'm going to start with So Saffron. And this is the frame image that goes around the sentiments from the Vine Design stamp set. So I'm going to ink that up in So Saffron and stamp it here on basic white cardstock. All right, and set that aside, and then get my Calypso Coral ink and the sentiment. And this one is the congratulations sentiment. Make sure that's good and inky. And then, of course, now that I say this, I didn't have too much trouble lining things up when I did my sample card. But of course, now that I'm on video and saying, oh, it's not hard to line up, it'll probably be all kinds of crazy and crooked. But the stamp seemed to fit kind of perfectly and was fairly straight. So I'm going to stamp it and hope that I got it somewhat straight. I think I did. So, like I said, when I did the initial kind of test run with it, it seemed to be a pretty easy image to stamp with. So, Karen, you got 3 inches of snow. We got, I don't know, it's maybe maybe a half an inch here, so it's a very light snow here. So then I've got the die here that coordinates from the Flowering Vines dies that I'm going to go ahead and cut this out with. And my die cutting machine is off here to my right side, so I'm going to be off screen for just a second doing my die cutting. All right, get this crank through. Okay, so there we've got our die cut sentiment. We just need to add that onto the card front. I actually use Stampin' Seal to adhere this down. So just gonna hopefully run a little Stampin' Seal here on the back of this. And stick it on right over the top, again trying to get it somewhat centered and straight on my other die cut. And again, I'm just using the edges to line things up, kind of looking at where the bumps in the die cut are to where I should stick it. So I think that looks pretty good and pretty straight. The last thing that I did on this one was just added some of the little pearl basic jewels, and I used the small ones. And again, I did this side ahead of time so you didn't have to sit and watch me pick all 12,000 of these off and put them in the centers. But again, just it goes really quickly. Get a little, you can use take your pick tool, or I prefer a little tweezers, whatever it is, some sort of a tool to lift off your pearls, and then you can stick them right down on the card front. So they're pretty easy. As the one scoots off, as I'm saying, it's pretty easy. My little pearl decides it wants to flip upside down. And once we get the pearls done, we'll be done with this card front. So hopefully you kind of like to watch the little, like I said, I thought it was kind of interesting or kind of fun to try to use the same basic products and come up with three cards that were similar design, but not quite the same. One that was pretty simple, so if you need something just quick, one that was a little more complex, and then one that took a little bit more time. And mostly with this card, the time was just spent adhering the die cut pieces together. That was the part that kind of took a couple extra minutes. Again, it wasn't terrible, just took a few extra minutes to get it done. So I'm going to crease that with a bone folder, and we are going to call that good. On the inside of this card, again, I just kept it super simple and did the vine image and did the little flower images in Calypso Coral and So Saffron, and vine was stamped in Pear Pizzazz. And I can't remember if I said this is a Pear Pizzazz card base, but it is, if I forgot to mention that. So that's it for my cards today. And I actually forgot to fold the little note card in half here, but might as well do that while I'm at it. So we've got the 2 note cards done. Got the 2 sort of medium cards that are layered up a little bit done. And then we got the 2 that were a little more complex, all done. So again, hopefully you enjoyed the video. I had fun making them. Definitely consider getting this bundle if you don't have it already. Let me know if you have any questions. Don't forget, Celebration is going on. So for every $50 that you purchase in Stampin' Up! Merchandise, you get to choose a free item from Stampin' Up! With your order. So that's all that I had for you today. So thanks so much for joining. I appreciate you being here. Have a fantastic rest of your Tuesday. I will plan to see you see you on Friday on YouTube live around 2 o'clock Eastern time. And then again next week out here on my Facebook channel live around 2 o'clock Eastern time. So have a great rest of your day. Thanks so much for joining, and we'll chat soon.